Hey guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks for tuning in to what's going to be a review of some new products from Physicians Formula. They have expanded their butter collection once again with 2 eyeshadow palettes. So in this video, I'm going to be swatching them, demoing the look that I'm wearing on my eyes today, and just sharing my thoughts about whether I think you should check these out or if they are a miss. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I bought these straight from the Physicians Formula website. I had heard rumblings about the launch of these probably a month, almost 2 months, at least a month and a half back, but hadn't seen them in drugstores when I'd gone to check. So I figured I would just go ahead and check the Physicians Formula website, and when I saw them there, thought it would be easier than continuing to hunt for them. So that is where I bought them. However, shortly after they arrived, I was walking around in Walmart and saw not only these palettes, but also what I'm pretty sure is a butter collection palette, which for those of you who are familiar with this and as well as the butter box they came out with, the palette is something that you can still find very sporadically at Walmart. It's the one that has the 4 face products, the butter bronzer, butter blush, and then 2 of the highlighters as well as the fragrance. I'm pretty sure I saw this on one of those end cap displays with the bronzer palette as well as the 2 eyeshadow palettes. So just as an FYI, if you're looking for this in person just because you want to see what they look like before purchasing, Walmart I think might be your best bet. And if you're there and you have been wanting one of those boxes or wanting to replace yours because they are a limited edition, you might want to check that out as well. And I have a whole review of that box if you're curious to know more about it. I will link it, click the I up here, or check the description box for a link. Okay, so the way they have divided these palettes up is you have a day palette and a night palette. The daytime is appropriately named Tropical Days, and likewise the other one is called Sultry Nights. Although I have to say, I think both are a pretty good mix of shades. You not only get like lighter daytime shades, but also deeper and even more colorful shades for nighttime in both of these, but you also get a really good mix of textures. Everything from matte to satin to shimmery to there are a couple in here that are almost like crushed metals, or they're not quite metallic, but they're just a little bit more amped up than the satin or shimmery shades in these palettes. And I think you'll see what I mean in the swatches. Speaking of, as the swatches of these palettes are flashing up here on the screen, I wanted to talk about how these are a great example of how you can't always trust the look and feel of swatches and base the performance of the palette solely on that. You really have to get down to using them, and I say that because those crumbled, like crushed metallic pigment things that I'm trying to describe earlier in the video, I thought were going to be a total dud when I swatched them. You can see they're crumbly, they have a lot of fallout. Just personally, as I was swatching them, I noticed them sticking a lot more to my finger than actually transferring onto my skin as I swatched. And I was a little let down, and I was kind of expecting the worst out of these palettes because of that. Even though the rest of the shades are pretty good, the mattes are beautiful, they're every bit as beautiful as the matte butter bronzer that we all know and love and that kicked off the butter collection. The shimmers are great. I just had that sinking stump where you're like, oh, these are gonna be duds just because those few shade formulas are not doing so hot in swatching. However, I did an emotional 180 when it actually came to using these. They perform totally differently with brushes. I think you need something that can actually really cling to the pigment and then deposit it on your eyes, as opposed to your finger, which is a much more smooth surface that just doesn't translate in the same way that a brush does. So backing it up, before we get into the eye look I'm wearing today, I want to quickly mention how these are further broken down inside. So like I said, you have your daytime palette, your nighttime palette, but when I first saw these, I thought surely there has to be some method to this configuration madness. I mean, it seems like an arbitrarily organized mix of like larger and smaller rectangles and textures. Now I think the textures of the shadows, like the patterns pressed to the shadows, are kind of random. However, they are organized in quads, in 3 quads per palette. So over here you have a soft neutral shade. It's called the Coastal Chic look, and they actually walk you through how to use all of these shades to create one cohesive eye look. Likewise for the center section of colors, which is called the Heat Wave look. And at the very end here, you have a Ready for Rio look. So I did really like how they didn't just throw all of these colors in here and kind of expect you, which can be fun to experiment and play, and I think we'll all naturally do, but it's also kind of nice to have a guide. And to be totally honest, the eye look that I'm wearing today, I pulled from the Sultry Nights palette, and I chose it because it's not a color pattern or placement that I would ever naturally do myself, and it kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone. So I just really like it when palettes will put that on the back there just to provide some inspiration for those who might want it, maybe some guidelines if you're new. Just know they are on the back of these palettes. So then getting into the Sultry Nights palette, over here again on my far right, you have the shade collection called Beach Beige. It's slightly deeper than the daytime kind of coastal chic beigey eye look you get from the daytime palette. Then in the middle you have Sunset Vista, and that is the look that I am wearing on my eyes right now. I did that because there is not a matte shadow in all of this, and I just never think to do a look without mattes. It's always in my crease. Sometimes they're used to deepen up my outer corner. I just never think to go all shimmer, and this is a really interesting selection of colors, so I thought I would go for it, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. And again, I think you'll be able to see how this olive green here, that is one of those crushed metallic shades, and I think you'll be able to see how it translates, I think, so much better when using a brush than it does when swatching with a finger. Then the last color selection here you have is After Dark over here. And like I said, overall, I know one is supposed to be night and supposed to be day, but between the two, you just get a good mix of tones and shades and colors that really could lend themselves to both day and night, regardless of the palette you choose. I think it's more so going to come down to the shades that you prefer to wear. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention, because I kind of expected more out of it between these two, was duplication of shades across both. When I saw this, I thought, well, maybe, you know, you could get away with just using one because they're going to duplicate a lot of the essential everyday, like crease, highlight, those kinds of shades. But in reality, these are all pretty unique shades. What might be, you know, these matte cream colors over here, they are shimmery over in the Nighttime Sultry palette. And, you know, likewise, you have this copper and this deep kind of blue tone tealy grayish over here that are shimmery in the Nighttime palette, but you get them in more daytime matte or softer shimmer finishes in the daytime. So I very much think that you could get away with having both of these if the color palettes strike you without feeling like you have a bunch of duplicate shades, which I think is really nice. Overall, I just think these are a nice addition to the seemingly ever-growing butter collection from Physicians Formula. The one thing I do want to mention though, and I wish I would have mentioned this right off the bat, is they are scented. If you are familiar with what the butter bronzer smells like, if you have this palette, these palettes both smell just like that. It's not super overwhelming. It's a soft kind of coconut, reminds me of sun and sunscreen, and in like a good way, in a nostalgic kind of way, but it's definitely not going to be for everyone, especially if you have scent sensitivities, whether they give you headaches or if you just find, I mean, fragrance can be a skin irritant. It doesn't irritate my skin personally, but if you find it does yours, these might be something you have to skip because there is definitely a fragrance in the product. And that, I think, is everything I wanted to talk about within these palettes. Let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, information that I left out, let me know down in the comments below. Besides that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, guys!